Hi, today I'm going to talk about Raissa Maritain. She lived from 1883 to 1960, so relatively contemporary. She was born in Russia of a fairly well-to-do family, but then her parents moved to France so that she and her sisters could get like a better education, and they showed real talent in terms of their moxie and their smarts. And so she did. She went and in spite of not even knowing the language there, she advanced so well and so quickly in her studies. By the time she was 16, she was admitted to college. So she goes to, Sorbonne, which is a French university. And there she meets with Jacques Maritain, who she will marry. But he approached her to sign her name, protesting how the Tsar was treating the poor people in Russia. And so she's very moved by that, and the two of them kind of bonded right away. They fell in love, they got married. They were very into philosophy and trying to understand the meaning of life, which gets to be a favorite topic of mine as well. But they took it so seriously that they said if they didn't figure this out in a year, they were going to end their lives. And this is after they're married. This is the way they came to this. They're so serious about their philosophical considerations of this meaning of life. Well, fortunately for them, they run into a famous philosopher, Henry Bergson, and also are very influenced by Leon Bloy. Leon Bloy is a famous person who kind of revitalized Catholicism. Now, the two of them were both Jewish, didn't have a real lot of religious connection per se, but through Bloy, they kind of came to see the meaning of life through Catholicism, and they were both baptized in 1906. So 2 years after they're married, they're baptized, and Leon Bloy was actually their godfather. So they found their way to the church. They took it very seriously. They took vows as oblates of Saint Benedict. And later on, they'd even take a vow of celibacy, mutual agreed celibacy. But they didn't separate it by any means. They stayed together as a very loving couple. And they had to make a choice as to exactly where to go with this vocation feeling. And she very much felt we had to stay in part of this. Now, her husband, Jacques, will become a famous Catholic philosopher. However, he claims and accredits most of his good insights from her. Isn't that fascinating? I kind of can see and can empathize with that. So Raissa goes ahead and she actually passes away in 1960. So at that point, she's 70 or so years old. And Jacques discovers her journals and realizes that his wife had been much more spiritual and prayerful than he had even known. And here he is married to her, loving her, and all the rest, all these years of cohort and helping her write. He helped her a bit in her writings. But and she was a poet, a fairly well-known poet at the time. But her spirituality and the depths of her sights. I'm going to read a little bit from what she had written. And she says this: I have the feeling that what is asked of us is to live in the whirlwind, without keeping back any of our substance, without keeping back anything for ourselves, neither rest, nor friendships, nor health, nor leisure, to pray incessantly, in fact, to let ourselves pitch and toss in the waves of the divine will till the day when it will say, that's enough. And doesn't that seem how life goes? You feel like you get flowed back and forth on different things. And to think that God's will can be coming through on all of that. It can lift us, it can take us. I tell you, I was so inspired by this. I'm going to be ordering her journal. She has a journal called Raissa's Journal, and I'm intending to read it and to try to get a little grip of how we can be so contemplative in the midst of, as she writes, in the midst of the whirlwind. Let us considering being in the whirlwind and yet being prayerful at the same time. May we be blessed.